The Rambler Network.
It is time once again for the book recap. This time it is March 2026. I did 10 books this month, like January. I think the reason February didn't get 10 books is because it was a shorter month. Had 28. It's less days than a regular month. Maybe the 31 days month, months of 31 days will. Well, no, because this is a 31-day month, and I'm recording this on the 28th, so maybe I don't know. Anyway, what I'm saying is, there's 10 books this month. Okay, so I'm not trying to do 10 books a month. I just happen to be 10 books. My goal for the year was 24, which I actually hit this month. So I reached my goal in the third month, but I'm gonna keep going. Anyway, so I started the month since last month's topic was kind of heavy, according to some people. They're like, why is your topic so heavy? Because it was Black History. It's gonna be a heavy topic if you do it right. I don't know. Anyway, because of that, I decided to start the month off with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, read by Stephen Fry. Started on the 1st of March, finished on 3rd of March. And I actually grew up with this book. I grew up with it. My uncle gave me the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is all the books in one collection. I I I only read the first one. I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy like 100 times as a kid. Never read the other books. I don't know why. I never continued. I had them growing up. I physically own. It's not the same one because the one I had like gold pages. It was like a brown, like a black or dark brown or black cover with like gold on the cover, and then the edge of the pages were gold, and it looked really fancy. I think there was a bookmark too, like a built-in bookmark thing, like a string. I was like, this is really fancy. It's the fanciest book I own. It was even it was the fanciest book I own. And so I only ever read the first book. I don't know why I never continued. So I finally did that. Number 19. Okay, so yeah, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was number 18. Number 19 for the year was A Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams, read by Douglas Adams. Started on the 3rd of March, finished on the 4th of March. I found this YouTube channel. The reason I did it this way, I went on YouTube and I found there's a channel that just has the Hitchhiker books read by Douglas Adams, and I'm thinking that is the best way to have it read by the author. Like the voices he does, like he knows how it's supposed to sound. But no, that was good. I loved that. It was amazing. But I wasn't a fan of doing it on YouTube because I basically had to go in one sitting because once I click away from it, I lose my spot. So I had to do that in one sitting, and I decided not to do that again because then I would have to do it in one sitting. Yeah, so books 20, 21, and 22 were Life, the Universe, and Everything, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, and Mostly Harmless by Douglas Adams, read by Martin Freeman. And all three were started and finished on March 3rd. I did them in one sitting anyway, so I could have listened to that version on YouTube with Douglas Adams. But Martin Freeman does a good job. He was the Arthur Dent in the movie, so yeah, the first 5 books of the month were the Hitchhiker series. I know there's technically a 6th one that was written by someone else, but I decided not to. I like them. Yeah, the ending of Martially Harmless was kind of bleak. I'm like, oh, that was very finale, very final. And I know I was researching it, and a lot of fans hated that it ended on such a bleak note. That after years after he passed away, somebody else came along, and like his family was like, oh, yep, you can write that. And so he wrote like a book, and fans didn't like it. Some people liked it because it ended on a happy note, but I decided to not do that one because it wasn't written by Douglas Adams and it wasn't the ending he intended. I know the reason he did that. Apparently, when he wrote that, he was in a very dark place, and he was in the process of writing a sixth book, but that one he didn't publish it. His family published it long after he died, and it was unfinished. And I didn't. It is available. I just didn't read it. The official canonical Hitchhiker series are these 5, and that's what I went with. I didn't continue past that. So, book 26, book 23 of the year, The Missing Half by Ashley Flowers, read by Saskia Marleveld. I hate when I can't pronounce the names. Started on the 6th of March, finished on the 8th of March. I read her first book, All Good People Here, in January. And I really liked it. It was really good. I liked it. It was she's a podcaster. I listen to her podcast. She does Crime Junkie, she does The Deck. She has a few other podcasts. Very presidential. Some of them aren't, not all of them are true crime inspired, but she's mostly known for true crime. And so she announced her first book a few years ago, and it was exciting. And she did say it was loosely inspired by a case that she covered. And I'm thinking, she's covered hundreds of cases. I thought it would be like some case that it was like a small case that I wouldn't remember, and ended up very like you're reading it or listening to the audiobook, whatever. You're reading it and you're like, wait, this sounds like JonBenet. Yeah. Okay. So what she does is she takes like the basic premise of the case, of the real life case, and then she adds that's where she starts her story. It's like the basic premise of the story, and then builds from that. And it's very loosely All Good People Here is very loosely based on JonBenet. So I figured it'd be the same thing with The Missing Half. And yeah, it was. It was as you're getting into it, you realize it's very loosely based on the case of Maura Murray. And honestly, I think The Missing Half is the better of the two books, which is saying something because the first one was really good, which is really good because that means that she's getting better as she writes. One thing I didn't like about All Good People Here, it took a while for her to actually get into the story. Like the opening chapters of All Good People Here was like establishing like the world and the setting and the characters, and then things start to happen, and okay, now it's getting good. Well, she's get past all that in Missing Half, and it just starts. There we go. I'm pretty sure she's making a third one. I thought. So here's the thing. The reason I waited to read The Missing Half is I thought it was a sequel to All Good People Here. I thought that she had created like a detective character, and The Missing Half was like the second case that she's covering in this series. And no, it's two very completely separate stories, not even remotely tied to each other. I'm pretty sure she's making a third book. She hasn't said anything about it, and I don't know if she has. I'm sure Ashley Flowers has a website. I haven't looked, but if she does, I am excited to read it. Number 24, which was, remember how I said my goal for the year was 24 books? Well, when I reached book number 24 in the middle of March, I decided to do something slightly different. I have a friend who actually published a novel a couple years ago, and they had a Kickstarter, and I pitched into the Kickstarter. I got a copy of the novel. I actually own the paperback of the novel. It's called The Octagon's 8 by Myron Oakley. I started it on the 8th of March, finished it on the 10th of March. Before I did, though, I knew that I wanted that to be the number 24. It's like the book that completed the goal for the year. I wanted it to be something different, something meaningful. It's like a book by a friend. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I messaged Myron and was like, hey, is there an audiobook? I know there was like they were talking about wanting to do that, and they told me there wasn't one. So I was like, oh, okay. So for the first time since 2020, for the first time since 2013, I actually physically read a book. And I don't do that because I don't have the time or concentration. At least that's what I always said, because like every time I would try to read one, it would take me forever. The last book I had read physically was Psycho by Robert Bloch in 2013, and every time I tried to read a book after that, I couldn't concentrate, and I would give up after a few pages, not having taken anything in. So when they told me there wasn't an audiobook for this one, I was like, I will try it. I will try to read it. And I didn't tell them this. I was like, I'm going to try it. And then, yeah, it took me 2 days. Technically a day, because like I started it at like 11 p.m. on the 8th of March. And then I finished it like shortly after midnight, like 1 a.m. on the 10th of March. So like slightly over 24 hours. I wasn't reading that entire time. I would read a few chapters, and then I'd like watch a video, play on my console or whatever. I did it on a day off. And so, yeah. If I had not stopped reading and just kept going, it probably, I'm guessing, maybe would have taken 12 hours. So, I don't know what was up with the other times when I couldn't read, but I was able to do that one. And when I posted about it, I was like, I normally don't post about the books I'm reading until I do the recap, but this one's different. And I did a post about it, kind of did a review on Facebook, and I tagged Myron. And I was like, I know that I know they talked about doing a second one, and I'm like really excited. And then Myron commented, like, like really excited that I read it, and then sent me a link to their website saying, hey, it's actually available. The second one's available right now. I'm like, oh, I did not know that. I haven't bought it yet. I will. I might read it later this year. They did tell me that they're planning on doing an audiobook for that one. And so I will physically buy that one, but I might do the audiobook when that one comes out. Book 25, the start of the new goal. Actually, I kept the same goal at 24, and now the goal says I've read 27 out of 24. So I'm guessing at the end of the year it's going to be like very odd. If I read 100 books, it'll say you've read 100 out of 24 books. Okay, so book 25, I read The Deep by Alma Katsu, read by Jane Collingwood. Started on the 10th of March, finished on the 18th of March. I feel like I would have read more books this month, but then the second half of the month I got busy. You notice how I read like the first 7 books of the year was in like the first 10 days. So, yeah, had I not gotten busy, I probably would have read a lot more. The Deep took me a week to read, and yeah, it's not that it was boring or anything. I just didn't have time. I work so much. I'm a lead at work, and then had stuff happening. So basically, The Deep it's about Titanic and the Britannic. It's a fictional story set on them. It's a supernatural story taking place on Titanic and Britannic, and it uses fictional characters as well as historical characters. And I don't know, I liked it, but there's times where I'm reading, I'm like, they're having like historical characters like having affairs with the fictional characters, and I'm like, I don't know if the family of that character knows about this book and if they're okay with it, because I know the family of Matt Murdock. I think that's the character that did it in the movie Titanic, where he killed himself and like he shot himself in the head, and the family was like really upset with James Cameron for that, and so like yeah, that was 100 years ago, and they were still talking about it. Well, I don't know if the family of these characters are reading this book. I'm like, hey, so yeah, I don't know. That's like the only thing that really stood out to me as being a little odd, but like the story itself is like really interesting. It's very complicated too. Like so what I wish she had done, the only thing I wish she had done different, she does this back and forth thing where it's like she goes between 1912 and 1916, and it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, basically telling the two stories at the same time. And sometimes it's confusing to know which time we're in. I wish she would have just stuck with telling the Titanic story first and then tell the Britannic story. Tell it in chronological order, because it got a little confusing sometimes. That's why it felt kind of complicated, because there's so much going on. Other than that, I really like the story. Number 26. It's actually a reread for me. I read it back in 2007. It's called The Thief Lord It's called The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funk. I've never heard her name said out loud. It's Funk with an E at the end. Read by Simon Jones. Started on the 19th of March. Started on the 19th of March, finished on the 26th of March. Also took me a week to read. So that's 2 weeks there on 2 books. Yeah. So The Thief Lord, I checked it out from the library. When I was in high school, in the 4 years I was in high school, I read pretty much every book in the library. And that's not me like exaggerating. The librarian even told me, like, as I was getting ready to graduate, she was like, I just want you to know that you've checked out pretty much every book in this library. And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah. I'm like, wow. Because I used to read so much, and it's weird that now I can't concentrate. Or couldn't? I don't know. Anyway, so when I graduated high school, I started going to the public library. And that was exciting because then it was like leveling up. There was like so many more books. And one of the first ones I got was called The Thief Lord, which is still, I'm surprised this one wasn't in the high school library. It's very much that kind of book that would go in the library. But the thing that stood out to me, well, as soon as I opened it, I saw the cover. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. I took it home, opened it. First thing I saw, Map of Venice. And I immediately got excited. And yeah, the story it's basically about orphans in Venice, and there's think Oliver. I want to no, not Oliver. There's like, it was like a combination of two different stories it made me think of, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. Maybe Oliver and Company. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Um, yeah, it had kind of an Oliver and Company feel, but like in Venice and humans. Um, yeah, I. I'm not going to explain anything. That's why these are not reviews. These are like, hey, these are what I've read, and not always my opinions on them. Sometimes like, hey, I read this book, and next. So, but yeah, she Cornelia Funk or Funke or however I don't know how it's pronounced. She is most known for doing the Inkheart series. So if that name sounds familiar, that is why. And the final book I read is another one it's another reread for me. I read it in high school. Actually, my sister read it first and she told me about it, and then I went and read it. And she's not good at explaining books because she was telling me about it and then I read it. I'm like, that's not what happened. Do we read the same book? It's called Full Tilt by Neil Shusterman. Read by Josh Bloomberg. Started on the 27th of March and finished this morning on the 28th of March. The movie it made me think of is Something Wicked This Way Comes. And yeah, and only because of like the carnival setting. It takes place at like a fairground, and he has to do 7 rides by dawn, or he has to stay there. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. There is a lot of, I wouldn't say pop culture reference, but it's more like historical references. Like there's Hindenburg, and yeah, there's pop culture references. There's Wizard of Oz. One of the first, and I think like one of the first or second page, basically like the first or second minute of the audiobook, it is mentioned. The Wizard of Oz is mentioned, and then the Wizard of Oz plays a very crucial part in the climax at the end. I will not spoil anything because I want people to read this. Yeah, Neil Shusterman also played a part in the first month. The 5th book I read this year was The Swallows Year by Neil Shusterman. Read by him. I was hoping he read this one, but he didn't. The one I really like his books, and so I read a lot of them in high school, and now I've done 2 of them. Is it the first? I think he's the first returning author. No, wait, that's Ashley Flowers was the first returning author. Let me look. Yeah. Oh, I just realized something. So the first month I did an Ashley Flowers and Neil Shusterman book, and then this month, the second no theme month, I also did Ashley Flowers and Neil Shusterman. So coincidence? Yeah, totally coincidence. I didn't even notice it till now. And now it'll be a theme. Now she's only got 2 books, so I couldn't do that. But once she releases a 3rd book, I'll probably not do that. I might. I mean, I will read it, but I don't want to make that a theme. I already have a theme for April. I already have the first 5 books. I'm looking at it. 6. I got the first 6 books mapped out. I already have them reserved on Libby, Hoopla, downloaded to my phone on Spotify. And I am looking forward to it. I am excited. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
The Rambler Network.